Order record. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Nauset Regional School Committee to order. It is Thursday, February 27th. We are in the Nauset room at the Nauset Middle School. As required by the open meeting law, we are informing you that the district will be videotaping this public meeting. In addition, if anyone else intends to either video or audio tape this meeting, they are required to inform the chair. Okay. No agenda changes, no, I know of. Therefore, we go down to public comment. Is anybody out there?
See, there's somebody out there.
If anybody needs to take part in public comment, please raise your little yellow hand. Is it still yellow? Yes. And we will recognize you for 3 minutes.
So hands are up. I'll take one now. Public comment. As we head into the spring and the budget season this year, after I wasn't on the agenda, I'm a citizen, I got a right to express my concerns, and I'm going to. I just want to take note of so many good things are going on with the schools and leadership and so forth, but we also have challenges before us, and challenges are we have been led well by Brooke. We have new leadership coming in, that's excellent. I was a little surprised to see that we had lost our assistant superintendent, so I'm concerned about that vacuum. In terms just also noting that with that, we are down in the central office, payroll, facilities director, assistant to finance. We're kind of running on a ghost staff here. And it's, as you know, budget is our toughest time here. So I just think there needs to be a vigilance among the school community to make sure that we fill these positions with the future in mind and make, also it's addressing some of the challenges that we have. Because you can't run a successful operation with this kind of turnover on a regular basis. I mean, it's you think of what we're requesting out of the staff that's actually still at the central office. And it's scary to be quite honest with you, because the process is just overtax people, when you overtax them. I hate to say it, there's no more motivation to go look for another job than being overworked. So I just think it's critical that we have a plan moving forward and how we work on it. We work on it, you have been, and it's something we should make sure it's on the page of the new superintendent, but it's pretty scary. I mean, not scary, but it's it's a situation we need to be aware of and make sure that we work to address that. So that's all I can say.
Okay, all right. Moving on, there's nobody else out there.
No, there's one person and they have no hand raised.
Okay.
One, but I'm sure there's others listening.
So we will go to the next and approve the gifts, grants, fundraising, and approve the minutes of January 23rd and February 6th. I believe there's only one gift from the Give Back Yoga Foundation in Boulder, Colorado. Thank you for the gift of yoga mats to the middle school.
Throwing the net far and wide.
So we thank them, that's very nice. And then their minutes. Any discussion? On any of those topics? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Okay, been moved and seconded. No further comment. All right, we're gonna have to take a roll call vote. All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, Carrie, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes, please.
Heather?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Judy votes yes. Maura?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Catherine? Same. Okay, so it passes. Okay, now we're down to priority business. And we have been graced tonight with an in-person presence. By the time you only used to see it flash on the screen. It's in 3 dimensions.
Thanks for the invite. Good to see you all in person. My goodness. So just a quick update. I know I sent you daily report of what's going on campus, try to make it as educational as possible. That's my role in getting all the jargon out of the way so we understand what's going on. If there's an acronym that you don't get and I haven't explained, let me know. I'll explain it for you. Okay. But for phase 1, which was the new science building, gymnasium, cafeteria, auditorium, and in-building review. We're still in the punch list phase. And the part of the issue with that is that we are not doing punch list work during the school hours because you can't have them working and students interacting. And some of these items take more than some 15-20 minutes to do. We did a lot of work last week during school vacation week, but it's kind of interesting when people say school vacation might have 5 days. Well, the first day is a holiday. It's a union job, so you don't have holiday on Monday, so we only have 4 working days. So a lot of work did get done last week. There's still a lot more to do. So there's another batch of things coming in for the April break, which will be better because some things actually include outside the building work that has to be done. It's temperature sensitive and it's time sensitive. So there'll be a lot more stuff during April vacation. That's the good part about that. Phase 2, which is buildings A, B, C, and D, is moving along. It's about 50% as of today. All the steel structure is up for all the new additions and the interconnections of the old buildings. Building A is along, furthest along, because we're able to start there first. So for instance, the ability of actually applying some of the finished colors, coats, paint. They're getting ready to enclose the windows because we've water tested windows in A, B, and C. They're all passed this time around. Thumbs up. Everybody learned your lesson last time, so that's great. So we're waiting for building D, which is occupying where the old boiler room was and the old auditorium. When those windows are set, they have to sit for at least 2 weeks after they're installed because the caulking needs that much time to solidify gel properly so that when we water test, they actually do their job. So that'll be happening second week of March. It's already scheduled and the testers come out to do that. So phase 2 is well underway. We have one challenge in phase 2, and that is for buildings A and B. We're working through the fact that those 2 buildings, because they're set in stone, no pun intended, it's made out of concrete, ceiling heights inside are restricting what we can do for utilities. So originally, it looked like we could fit the ductwork, the fire sprinklers, the HVAC piping, water piping, all within from the concrete to the suspended ceiling. That big rooms with ceiling heights of 7 feet. You can't do that. So it has to be a minimum of 7'4". So we're in the process of taking just the piping for the HVAC system, which is 6 to 8 inches in diameter. We're going to pop up through from C building and go over the roofs of A and B and create a new pathway and we'll pop back down and connect to the equipment in those 2 buildings. So right now that's being worked on. Got a couple of meetings, there's another meeting I believe on Monday to solidify those changes. And when that's authorized, then they'll start working on that. So that's great news. I'll move that forward. The buildings themselves, I can't wait to show you around those buildings. It's a huge change from what you all remember on Nauset Regional High School being. The connecting hallways that were outside are all interior. A building has a beautiful southern exposure hallway that's going to be all glass that connects all the classrooms. So you don't have to walk through all the classrooms to get to the one at the end, which is a huge improvement. The bridge, those connectors between A and B and C and A are all 2-story structures that are enclosed and not open to the air anymore. They won't be. So that's a huge improvement as well. So it's encouraging to see all the things that are happening. When you see some of the pictures I've seen regarding the black box theater and the old auditorium. So that half that building is actually the student union. And you will be just amazed at what that space is looking like. And when you can get up on the second floor and get a scope of everything that's going on below you, as you're looking down at the classrooms, there's a set of stairs and actually staging that the students be able to sit on and interact. There's like a little cafe, bunch of tables. That it is encouraging to see that. As a matter of fact, this afternoon, Kathleen Trigali and Tom Ferris were sitting with the architect. They're picking the colors of what's going to happen inside those spaces. And they're going to kind of go bold. I'm not going to divulge, but they're going off the deep end as best I can put it. So it'll be great. It'll be a good improvement to the campus.
It's gonna be great or scary. One or the other.
It'd be interesting. So we're going back to the ongoing chuckle at the project meetings on every Thursdays has been for months now. That I'm tasked with getting a list of names to go on the commemorative plaque. That's gonna go in Eagle. And it's been on hold for weeks because I keep saying I'm waiting for a name. And that's because the names keep changing depending on who's sitting in these seats and who's employed where. So as of last week, I submitted all the names. It's being formatted, and we'll make sure everybody's name is spelled correctly and what you want on the commemorative plaque. So that's all there, and that will be signed off and cast in bronze, excuse me. And there'll be a special place hanging in the hallway that goes from the main office to the auditorium on the first floor. We've also salvaged the original plaque from 1970 from the old V building. It's in the trailer and looking to see if someone can kind of perk it up a little bit. It's kind of dull, but it really needs to be put up there as well. Coincidentally, one of the building committee members, Mr. Dave Crary from Eastham, his son went to school with my brother and class of 77. And I gave him a tour back in January. My brother was up from Washington. And my friend Dave Crary Jr. asked where the plaque was. I said, it's right there. Because his mom, who used to work in the town of Wellfleet, in town hall, was wondering where the plaque was, because her husband's name was. So it's all there, it's all documented, and it's going to be back in circulation. So these connections are really great about what happens in this project on this campus. So that's where we're at. As far as where we are financially, we still have roughly, as of last February 19th, our meeting, we have $2.42 million in the construction contingency. So we continue to look at purchase of potential change orders. The change order group meets at least once or twice a month to go through these and beat up on the contractor and their subs to make sure we are paying for a buck. So the one I mentioned about the piping, that is in process, and we will be looking at that in the next 10 days to bring forward for the March meeting, and a bunch of other little things that are ongoing with the project. So we are going to stay within the budget. That is ironclad. There's no getting around that, folks, obviously. And the team has that on their radar, and we're moving forward. And it's just nice to see what's going on. I know that just walking around on Monday after everybody got back from vacation, you know, wow, what happened while we were gone? Yeah, no kidding. A lot of things happened. A lot of concrete were poured. We have a bunch more being poured next week to do a lot of the interior ramps and hallways and the last 2 floors in the Black Box Theater. It is encouraging, to say the least. And the team's kind of fired up just to get it moving and get going. So that's kind of where we are, folks. I'm gladly answer questions, and don't be bashful about emailing me that I forgot something in my daily reports. Thank you.
So any questions for Greg, comments?
Quick question, and I forgive me if I missed or don't remember from an earlier meeting, but at one point we had talked about an equipment shed. I think it had been cut and then possibly brought back.
So yep.
And I was just wondering what the current status.
So the status of that was it was in a maintenance building.
Yeah.
Cold storage it was called,
Yeah.
and was part of what was called an alternates package to the building construction project. The bids came in high, so that part of the project could not be funded. However, as we move forward, if we are able to free up some funding, then we could go back and say the first alternate, which is the maintenance check for storage of equipment stuff, we could do something along those lines outside the general contract, because then it becomes district monies. And we do the contractor have to pay 15%, markup and all that stuff, so. Matter of fact, we did that the last project, a bunch of things we did with local vendors to save some money, get some work done. Quick point, to that point is that there was an old tree between A and C building that was leaning over the building, and I was gonna impinge upon the new bridge between A and C. So the contractor's price is almost 5,000, they had to take it out. We had a local vendor that the school uses, take it out there for the school vacation week for $1,200. So those are the types of things we're looking at to save and get the work done, but still save the taxpayer money. So it's an ongoing project to do that. It's part of the drill, quite frankly. So we're getting there.
Can you remind me, what's A, B, C, D? What's the library?
The library is in building B,
B, okay.
okay? It's not gonna be the library anymore. It's
But
gonna be the media center,
Media center is B,
B,
the old auditorium is D,
correct.
and the other two.
The long with the classroom is in room A. And C building used to have all the art stuff.
Yeah.
Is now turned into general classrooms. We're kind of spacious, by the way. And all the art stuff moved into N building on
Yeah.
the far corner of the property.
Okay,
I get
I
it.
get it now.
Okay, G is easy because it says gym. That's the only one that's.
Here,
Gary,
Yeah, great. Real quick. And Greg, you are amazing. Make sure your name is spelled correctly on the plaque. Just one comment. So you mentioned that the utilities are going to go up on the roof. Is that part of the HVAC? And if it is, how are you going to make sure that the cold stays cold and the hot stays hot?
So the only thing going on the roof is the HVAC piping, which is basically either return or feed, and the pipes have glycol, basically antifreeze in them. They are different insulation that's encapsulated, so it's waterproof and much thicker because it's outside, and they're supported on stanchions so that they are not impinging upon the roof. And we reiterate more times than we can count to the general contractor, they are not to damage the existing roofs. We have another 18 years of life on that warranty, and they've been beat about the head and shoulders many times about taking care of those roofs. So, yeah, so that's what's gonna happen, and it'll be good. And to ensure that, after their work is done on those roofs, we have scheduled an IR infrared scan of the roofs, which will show up any moisture that may have migrated during construction under those roofs. So if it shows up any moisture, they'll be responsible for repairing it and keeping our warranty. The roofing company has been involved since day one. They've been on the survey before they started working in phase 2. So we're trying to cross the I's, cross the T's and dot the I's. Like that right mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you.
Maura,
Yeah, that was actually, my question was related to that, but then your answer actually caused another question.
That's okay. I do that.
So in 18 years, when a new roof is needed, is it easy enough to move this piping and get it approved?
Don't have to, because it'll be above the roof.
Okay,
So if you think of, like just a water pipe, it's supported on stanchions. And the stanchions are anchored to the building, but they're above the roofing membrane, so that the roofing could be just peeled away, new roofing put in, and you're off to the races. So, okay. I won't be on that project, I guarantee you.
come
I
on.
don't know if you're-
I know where we-
it's here out there.
Greg, I just want to say, as always, thank you so much for your leadership, for your commitment, for your dedication to this project, for your perseverance, your stick-to-itiveness and your attention to detail. And it's just, you've just been amazing on this project, so thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
And you're always smiling. You may not feel it inside, but you're always smiling on the
I had a
outside.
long meeting today, second with Pat Clark, I haven't had a chance to chat with him, so we're all the budget stuff with him, so he's up to speed. I wish him good luck tonight, he's got all the 8th graders, I said, you got a great place to showcase for 8th graders coming up, this would be great. But it's, again, it's my 3rd project they do on the campus over the years, so, yeah, I don't mind at all, it's fun in some respects, to get it over and done with. It's nice to see the kids enjoying it still.
Yeah.
And walking through the cafeteria, through the gymnasium, yeah, it's just good to see the reaction. So this is great.
Okay, Chris,
It's great to hear you say that. But the volunteer time can be put in on this is in the realm of astronomical, I mean, really astronomical. And I don't know, I don't know how it could have gotten done any other, I don't know how, I don't know if anybody else would have stood in line to volunteer to do the job. So, I mean, you really, your services were priceless. And the amount of work is mind-boggling how much. So it is, I mean, there's no way to thank, enough. But I mean, it's a great gift to the communities, to the four towns. I mean, it's an important part of the process, and you're at the head of the storm, so the center of the storm. So it's beautiful stuff. Thank you. Good. Very good.
Thank you very much. And just as an aside, since, Bob's been out, we had a chat before he left. I said, well, given the fact that Bob was on campus all the time, the second set of eyes, we did not want to let the contractor subs know that there's less oversight. So, I have been popping in on an irregular basis to walk around and make sure that, the people watching them, because for our two project managers, the two gyms, it's a lot of work for them to cover all this ground. So they see a third person and, or make notes. We pass them on to some of the reports at night. That's part of the strategy as well. And it's short term, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's just making people aware that we are making sure the taxpayers of the Nauset district get what we are owed. It's that simple. Like,
all right. And we'll see you back here again.
anytime, I'll show up in person.
Now we have some nice space.
This is great.
Yeah,
And also room.
Yes, we're gonna get you on a high school too.
well, that's too hard for me to drive. This is fine.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Good luck.
You don't want to stay in here, buddy?
I should go home to see my. Thank you very much.
Okay, so tonight is budget night. So we have the January dashboard to start with, so that we can see where we are today. And then we will go on with the budgets, all of which we have seen in some form, but this is quote final form. So I just want to preface it by saying the Budget and Finance Subcommittee has met frequently, more frequently than usual, and gone over all of these budgets in depth. I think every one of them on more than one occasion. There's been a lot of work put into it, a lot of good conversations, a lot of hard conversations sometimes. But I think you'll see we've miraculously come out at the end. I always do, but you never know. So with that, I don't know, Tom, do you want to say anything more about the subcommittee?
No, I just really appreciate the push that Brooke gave to the budget process and the forum that we had with the communities. Giovanna's worked tirelessly on it. We've thrown a lot of curves, looked at a lot of different analysis, and it's much appreciated, your cooperation and support. The administrative staff has been wonderful. They've answered all of our questions truthfully and straightforward, and gave us great numbers. The principals themselves were ready, willing, able to step up to the plate. So it was a pretty intense process this time around. We didn't leave many stones unturned. I think it's a darn good budget. I I used to say this sitting on the other side, but I couldn't find anything else in there that wouldn't be injurious to the quality of the education that we delivered, that we could have, pared back. So please give us your input, and your insight. And we've had a lot of eyes on this in a lot of different ways. We had some significant cooperation and support with the local FinComs, Bob Rock Tobias with Brewster, Peter Wade with Eastham, Mary with Eastham, and Nick with Orleans. So they were participants in our meeting, and we entertained their input, and in many cases, they were very helpful. But without further ado.
Okay, so that we are going to then go to the dashboard, so we can see where we are this year before we look at next year.
Let's start with page 4 on the dashboard. So let's start with the budgets. So the operating budgets, typically during the month of February, we begin to project out what we expect to end the year based upon where we are during the month of January. So if you look at the top section, the region only, the current budget balance is $929,884 deficit. We are projecting the year-end balance to be a deficit of $347,335. We have looked at sources that are funding that we can utilize to reduce the current deficit. And we looked at the various line item budgets. We looked at the items in region only. We had conversations with our student services director regarding the out-of-district placements, and we expect to bring back students, and we expect to have savings there of about $100,000 bringing students back into the district. The other item that we expect to receive this year is additional transportation aid. As you may recall, last year, the school committee voted to establish the transportation revolving account. We have a current balance in there that we did not use last year of $138,134. So the additional aid that we're receiving this year, $121,415, plus the prior balance will be used to offset transportation costs in the regional budget. We also have available funds in the rural school aid of $223,000, so we'll use those dollars to offset some expenses in the region only deficit. So that's the region only. The region share currently has a deficit of $179,297. We expect this deficit to increase to $256,336. The deficit includes the new financial software. And we've also projected out additional costs for any additional items that we may need to get us to the end of the school year. The middle school, where the current balance is $286,776. We expect the middle school to end with $265,000. We looked at the utility lines. We have some savings in there for the utilities for the middle school. We also expect to receive $40,000 for the solar. Maybe that is the funds that we get from the battery backup. So that those funds should be arriving. And we also updated the utility, the electrical and gas. We expect to have additional savings there of around $50,000. The high school, the current balance is $46,434. We expect them to end the year with about $13,863. Again, the high school, we expect to receive funds of about $100,000 for the ed assistance that we provide the Turtle and Provincetown students. And we also looked at savings in the gas line of about $60,000. Any questions on where we are right now and where we expect to be at the end of the year? Next section is the revenue section. You'll notice that the state-based aid, we have a positive increase here of $86,571. That's based on the calculation. The additional amount received for people. The charter school aid is down this year by $189,604. The total P-Town tuitions are up. $219,423. We had additional students, more students than what we had originally budgeted for. That's why that number is up. We had budgeted for a total of 78 students. We have an increase of 8.5 students. The district receipts, this is comprised of interest and Medicaid receipts. We also looked at projecting out with the treasurer what we expect to receive between now and the end of the year. And we have a positive increase here of $747,951. So the total projected increase in revenue this year is $864,341. Any questions on the revenue section? Further down the page, we looked at where we are with encumbered balances from last year that have not been spent to date, and we feel comfortable putting those back into E&D, and those total $301,147. So let's go to page 3 of the dashboard.
Okay, just one quick question, all those funds that are going back in, they will not be part of the certification process, will that be in next year's batch, or is it, what are you in this year?
The certification, but 6/30/2025 will be 25-26.
Gotcha, so we got to 6, so yeah, thank you.
So let's go on to page 3. And page 3 summarizes where we are. So we began the year with $2,744,950. We were ninth in the list to have our E&D certified. We moved to the top of the list now. We could go back and call for questions. So we should have our E&D certified within the next couple of days. But right now, we ended the year with $2.7 million. We have a deficit in our operating budgets of $324,808. That's what we expect to end the year with. We have funding source savings from our various sources of funding of $864,341. The other account savings are from prior year encumbrances of $301,147. Looking at a projected E&D of $3,585,630. We have a small deficit in the community ed, thank you, of $7,462, and that's due to timing of receipts. So right now we're looking at an E&D of $3,578,168.
So that's where we are today.
That's where we are today.
So we can look at that balance, which is what you will see later, in the decision of how much to apply, to the budget this year. So, Gio and I are playing tag team to give each other a rest. So you're gonna have to bear with me now. So that's the dashboard. We've got all the school budgets here to go over. That I just want to quickly do kind of the easiest. We've gone over a number of times the middle school and the high school budgets. So if you look at the one pagers, there's a stable group of that shows the changes from what we saw from the beginning. So when you look at that in the middle school, we started out. Yep. So we started out with, about a $10 million budget. With a, $467,000 increase, which represented a 4.86%. The middle school folks, looked at it again and again and again, went over it. They were really diligent. We've applied some school aid, identified, some, teacher that's I think leaving, and some other support. You can see that they're all listed in there, bringing the budget down to the final version of just under 10 million, 9.8 million. So the middle school budget is coming in with a 2.02% increase, which is fantastic. I mean, they, Peter and his group really did much work here, but I think everybody still feels comfortable that they have what they need. And then the high school budget, if you look at the next page, started out in December at just over 14 million. With an 8.32% increase. And then you can see where they dug down. And we've got some retirements coming up that will not be replaced. We used also rural school aid, and we ratcheted down. Remember the electric bill was 500,000, so I felt comfortable taking that down a bit. So all in all, we've now brought it down to just under 13.5 million, reducing it by about 400,000. So the high school budget is coming in at just over 3%, 3.05%. So the school budgets are really great. I've told everybody as we talked to the principals, feel good about it.
Best shape you've been in.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah. So so those are the two budgets that we're the earliest in, and I think everybody feels comfortable with, or subcommittee. Is there any questions about anything on high school or middle school? Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, can you tell me if there are any programs that suffered any kind of curriculum that suffered in either of those two?
No, there are none. No, there are none.
So there is a roof out there that the art programs. So,
Go ahead, Tom.
No, in fact, we kept the math program intact. The new math curriculum is totally intact as the middle school presented to us. But nothing else was programs, costs.
new music as well, is there not?
Yeah, there's yeah, but Rick, if I can through the chair. I think the rumors started, and I think some of the rumors may have started even from staff, because there was some discussion with regards to curriculum and aligning to DSE expectations. And somehow that became a whole little beast unto itself that wasn't true. So no, the programs we did not cut programs.
Thank you, I just wanted to get that on.
No, and I thank you for bringing it up, so I have it on record as well, thank you.
Okay, any other, Catherine?
Well, that was my question as well, because there was a concern from a constituent in Brewster about the rumor of cutting, making our an elective for, seventh and eighth graders, you know.
There were just some, they were looking at some adjustments, and again, it was lining it with the DESE standards and frameworks. So that's where it started, and you're right, it was on the first Facebook page, we saw it. We're aware, well aware.
Well, especially because of, you know, I'm thinking, haven't we learned anything from COVID and like how important the arts are for for the mental health and creativity.
I must not do my part, my mental health is bad.
Okay, any other questions then? Okay, so, moving right along. The region only budget, we have the region only budget here. I didn't even find the middle school or high school budget. So. Again, we've gone over, that one before, this is. This is with the overlay, right?
It is with the overlay. Can I do that for a minute, just a minute here before you go in? I think one of the things, and I just want to kind of spring from what Tom had said, so thank you for this opportunity. This is a huge shift for us this year to do this, what we're calling the overlay. And it really is the opportunity to make corrections, particularly to the region budget, where there were things being paid for by the region that really didn't belong in the region. And so this was a huge shift. This was a lot of work for Jill and her team to take this kind of all out. Now, you recall that we've talked about this almost every time we've talked about budget in this season, but here we are kind of at the end, right? So that's why it was so important for us to make sure that all of our schools' budgets were all aligned before we did the overlay and said, okay, now we're gonna make these changes. And so again, for those who have the omnibus budget, which is 3 of our 4 communities, they won't really see any difference because they put it all together anyway. But for us, it's making sure that things are basically allocated to the appropriate lines. So I feel that this, personally, I just feel, and professionally, I feel that this is a huge step forward for Nauset. So I'm really, really pleased. And I know Judy and Chris, you've been pushing for this for years, Judy particularly, you know, and here.
You say that and that.
No, I wouldn't say nag, but you nudge.
There's other words used to.
So this is a huge step for us, and I'm just really, really proud that we are here at the end of this, and again, I give Gio all kinds of credit for helping to get us here, so. I just want to say that.
One key point, this was Judy's pet, without that, Judy was the tenacious on this, but the real issue here comes down to it. There are all sorts of items that were elementary school items that were being charged in the region. And the trouble is those items were actually high inflationary ones, I mean, healthcare costs, benefits and those kind of things, and so. To get them out in their right places, that makes those budgets seem correct. Whereas prior, we were looking bad because our numbers were always going up because we had these items in it. Now, it wasn't a number, a dollar amount, it was more just an increase. These items were ones that used to go up a lot. So having them in the right place, just make sure they're accounting for them correctly, and that we're not subject to catching heat because the region budget is up so high with these items. So it's an important move.
Well, and I think if you look on the one pager, you'll see the items that were taken out, listed. On the second part there, starting with the employer's, share of the health benefits on down. And these items amount to about $1 million. So not only was it a lot of money, but you now are gonna be able to actually see how much the preschool, the pre-K program costs. Because with it spread out all over, you didn't know how much does the pre-K program cost, how much does the central office cost? Because so much of the expense was funded just by the region. So now we get more of you can make a more informed decision when you know what the true data is. So I think that actually was my motivation. I think. So, so that you can see that before we did the overlay. Is that what we're calling it?
That's
The the reclassification, I think. The region only budget was up 6.65%. And a lot of that, as we had discussed before, is charter school tuition payments and the two big ticket items and SPED, especially the transportation. And we, in the 3 weeks before we go to the towns, we will get more definition around those so that we can explain them a little bit in more detail. Because they are the ones that are really driving this. I will point out though, that on the good news side of the region only budget, I'm gonna say this again, transportation is flatlined. So our transportation expenses from now on will be a 0% increase in the budget. For a while, we now own the buses. And we're getting payback finally, I think, for getting those buses 7 years ago. So there are some good things here. So then when you take the overlay out, or put the overlay on, whatever you're doing, and apply all those numbers where they belong, the region only budget is now at just over 15 million, for a slight decrease over last year. Other than that, nothing else had changed since we saw it before.
I just want to mention that when we met last time, we had version 1 of the region only budget. When we met, we did have, even though we knew that the increase was 6.5% for the health insurance, we went back to look at our roster to make sure that we had the correct number of participants in the plans. And so what you're seeing, version 2 is that adjustment. So we had an adjustment for the employer share of the healthcare benefits for the staff, and then we also had a small decrease in the retiree health insurance, and that's all based on a number of participants. And then we also had, we took a reduction in the out-of-district tuition. Some students were coming back, so we took additional reductions since version 1. So now what you have in your packet is version 2, which has these changes.
All right, any questions, Carrie?
Yeah, question, I guess more of a comment. Again, thank you for everyone that has worked so hard on this budget and for successfully, I believe, reclassifying some of these numbers. I think it's time and it's worked out well. And I think your education so far to the towns that this is coming has, I think, will be fruitful and will have been helpful, so that there's not a shock value to this. Just two things about special education. One is kudos to Matt Kravitz for touting our own programs. Our in-district programs are excellent, and I think by helping folks to understand how good they are, that sometimes in-district programs can be just as good, if not better, than some of the out-of-district programs. I mean, kids need to get what they need, and that's according to their IEPs. But for bringing kids back and being able to celebrate the success of the in-district programs, I think is wonderful. Because there's a lot of energy put into making those programs really excellent. The other piece is the pre-K. And I think that you're right, that understanding the cost of pre-K is really important. But I think it's also important to reiterate for the public that those are programs that we need to provide by law, and by right. I mean, it's important for these 3 to 5 year olds to help them get that head start. it's early intervention. It's all of that work that we put into those kids now that helps them as they move through the grades to potentially decrease some of the support that they may need. So it's that front loading of services that we do in preschool that really makes a big difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Anybody else, any questions, comments? Okay, so that's the regional, okay, Giovanna? Keep getting worse, you can go to the second one.
The next section is the central office. We have version 5 and version 6 in our packet. So we look through the one pager, well, actually it's 2 pages. So the central office, we had several meetings. We started with version 1, 2.3 million, an increase of 225,000, or 10.74% increase. We went back and forth with various line items and we made some updates. Before we went to version 2, 3, and 4. In the final version that we came up with, proposed version 5, we ended at 2.214 million, or an increase of $115,145, or 5.49% increase. With the overlay, the costs associated, some of the costs that we moved out of various line items on the region only, the high school, the middle school. We put back the technology salaries and individuals that should have been charged to central office, so we made the correction. And then we also have the staff benefits for central office, as well as the staff benefits for the retirees. So we end up with version 6, $3,089,756, an increase of $990,771, or a 47.20% increase. And the region's share of that $3 million is $1,825,427, which equates to an increase of $570,345, or 45.45% increase. That's just the region's share of the central office costs after the reclassifications and the overlay.
Yeah, through the chair. So I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is the central office budget, for the most part, is probably one of the smallest budgets we've got. So as soon as you go back out to do that overlay, that's why that percentage increases goes so far up. But we had also mentioned that, I think we've mentioned that at every budget meeting too, that we knew that it was going to be close between 45 and 50% increase once those positions came back in, just because it's because of the smaller size of the budget itself.
So just to be clear, I mean, first off, sort of central office budget is up 5.49%, period. Meaning if we did it like last year, this year would have been up 5.49%, that's version 5. Okay. And then when you add all these items to it, that reclassifications, that's where we get to the 47.42. And the purpose for doing that here is that central office budget is paid for, divided up between the elementary schools as well as the region. Whereas in the other budgets, it's solely the region that pays for. So, but just want to make sure it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, and of that 5% that we're up is primarily due to the additional software that we purchased, that was $120,000.
Slightly higher,
Well, the region's portion,
60%.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Karen?
Just a really quick thing, because Judy, I think you've drilled this into my head, is that when the region, when the central office budget is split and assessed, it still is the same 60% for the region, 40% for the elementary schools?
More or less, yeah.
Okay, roughly. All right, thanks.
I like to deal in round numbers, so that's what I deal with.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you look at version 6 of the central office, I believe on the last page, you see the allocation between where the central office costs get allocated between the region and the 5 elementary schools.
Just one other.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still looking for the page.
Did you want to tell us about the salt? Should we just keep talking, to make sure people understand you're investing a pretty serious amount of money in it, what is it there for and why we're doing it?
It's time to bring the finance office up into the 24/7.
Yes, it's only 2025.
So we're working very hard. We've got a lot of good quality people working on transferring the old system information to the new system. It is a process, a lot of people involved, but this new software package enables us to do a lot more in the finance office than we're able to do with the current system. For example, the new system allows us to interface with, 3 of the 4 member towns. Right now, when we do a warrant, we process everything and then we send it over to the towns and they re-enter everything. So this should save the towns a lot of time because there won't be duplication of effort. Same thing with payroll. There has the ability to, first of all, payroll. You won't have to keep all these papers, especially the accounts payable. We were able to scan a lot of information into the system. It's cloud-based. So we don't have to maintain a server, we can also clear up on the cloud. There's a lot of bells and whistles that we don't have it on.
Excellent, good. Appreciate you taking on the work.
It's sad.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Okay, again, I just, thanks for doing all the work of making this. Doesn't it feel better to get everything in the right little box? Don't you?
People might not get, soft, particularly on.
I'm one of those nerds who does.
All right, so there we have our 4 budgets. What, about the, capital asset budget?
It will come next time. We have a there for 4 here, we will submit it and we'll get our next meeting.
Okay, so we have to decide when the next meeting is, okay, so, all right. Are there any other questions on the specific budgets? Okay, so now we're gonna go in. The big one, the big sheet. This is how it all lays out, and just for those of you who have seen this before, the last column, see where you see version 1 and version 2. The version 1 is going to show you before the overlay, and version 2 will show you with the overlay, so you can see it all side by side. So you want to take it, Julie?
Yes. So if you take the document where we have all of the summaries of what's happened and all of the budgets that we've gone through the budget process, you're able to follow version 1 and then version 2. So let's start with the middle school. So in version 1, the proposed budget, we were at $9,865,089. And that increase was $237,735 or 2.47. To the chair, Madam Chair, do you want me to go through each?
No, we don't have to get the dollar figure for each, we've gone through all
Yeah,
those.
we've got through.
We can just, I think we can just go and see.
So, okay, so with the reclassifications, we made some reclassifications. The reclassification here was the technology support person that was previously allocated between the middle school and the high school. So that brought the middle school budget to $9,821,592. The high school Before the overlay, we were at $13,499,794. With the, again, with the technology support person that's split between, we reduced that middle school budget to $13,456,297. With the region only budget, we were at $16,104.
Million,
16 million, sorry. We had a big reduction in revenue.
It's a very good year.
$16,104,277. With the overlay reclassification of the benefits, we're down to $15,012,691. The central office, we were at $1,308,109. And then with the reclassification overlay, we're at $1,825,427. So the proposed budget, version 1, $40,777,269. Version 2 with the reclassifications and overlay, $40,116,007. Any questions on the expenditure side of the budget?
So then I think if you look at the income, okay, we just go through the income items, because the income is going to be down. The state-based aid, so you want to remind us what this number is based on?
Yeah, I just wanted me to take a note here, so the impact of this reclassification of stuff that went to the elementary schools was in essence a $650,000 changeover from us. So that was the impact on the budgets, and that's substantial money. You see it here, because the decrease, beautiful stuff.
Well, it's beautiful.
I mean,
But they
continuously, but it's pretty nice.
Well, it amounts to 2%.
Yeah.
Each 300,000 is a percent, and so that's the difference between being at 4.27 and 6.27.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so state-based aid, go for it. So
The
you
state,
get this number from,
that comes from the state, and, you know, we are, because of where we are with our state-based aid, we're health harmless, we just get the increase in the per pupil number of students that we have. So when you see the increase here, the income on both version 1 and 2 is the same, $3,914,479, an increase of $172,803. That reflects the increase that we received in fiscal 25 and what we project to receive in 26. The charter school aid, here we have a reduction in the amount that we expect to receive next year. We expect to receive $389,229, and that's a reduction of $574,114.
so if I could just comment on this figure. We have tried to find out, or are still in the process. I mean, this number comes from the state. So this is the number they give us, this is the number that has to go in the budget. But why it decreased from 963,000 to 389, when the number of students going to charter didn't decrease, is a mystery. Now, some of it is because they work through the system, they go from 100 to the 60 to the 40, but this is a huge number, so Tom and I are doing a little bit more investigation, just so that it's not that anybody doubts the number came from the state, but we'd like to be able to explain it a little bit better, even to ourselves.
Understand, that's huge. 59% decrease is great.
But if you look back in the past, the 963 was crazy.
Very high.
I mean, it was,
Yeah.
so it's, you know, when it goes up, nobody questions it. It was like, okay, let's move on. Yeah, so that's one that we're just gonna try to be able to explain better. Okay, Giovanna, go.
The state transportation aid, this went up $1,316,719, which is an increase of $341,056. And that number is based upon what we report to the state, we put out the prior year, and we increased it by the percentage that the state gave us. It's 95%
I think this is the highest ever.
Ever.
95, yeah.
Yeah, I'd keep it up, state.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, it was already supposed to be 100%.
Yeah.
Supposed to get.
Originally, yeah.
The laws.
When the law was first, yeah.
I'll take 95.
I'll take 100.
The next line item is the Toro and Provincetown tuition. This is down. We're projecting to receive, when we did version 1, based upon my email exchanges with the business managers of both Toro and Freetown, they provided me with estimates of the number of students that they expect to send to Nauset next year, and that equated to 67.5 students. So the $1,606,584 represents 67.5 students based upon the tuition agreement increased 3% in 25-26. Each student is $23,801. So when we looked at the numbers again, we looked at the current students that we have, and in conversation with the committee, we felt that we should increase that by 4 based upon what we have this year. It was higher. We received more students than we had budgeted, and we looked at it's going through the classes, and we felt that an increase of 4 students was appropriate. Therefore, when you look at version 2, the budget for the income for the Toro Freetown is higher than what version 1 says by for students. So that's $1,701,780. The next line item is the elementary assessment of therapists and benefits. In here, we previously had the therapists along with the reimbursement for some of the staff, technology staff, as well as the curriculum director. So we had $276,115, which was a reduction of $144,503. That represents a reduction of 1 FTE. That person moved over to the elementary schools and is being charged to the elementary school. They're full-time there.
Just a reminder on this one, this was revenue because we paid for it. And then the elementary schools were paying us back. Now we're not paying for it anymore. So it's wash.
So the estimated receipts, this, we have a drop here. We looked at, with our treasurer, we looked at what we expect to receive next year as the project comes to a close. We're expending more of the dollars that we have. And so the revenue from interest will be lower. So this represents interest as well as Medicaid receipts. It's $355,000, which is a drop of $845,000. The transfer from E&D, we looked at where we are, where we expect to be, and we're projecting to use $1,750,000. Now, in this number includes any amounts that were over the 5% that we expected to be over, that would necessitate the school committee reducing the assessments to the towns, either in the current fiscal year or in fiscal 26. We will do, well, the school committee needs to vote on that. So we put it in here, but we're expecting that, so that'll be about $350,000 there, and then the difference is also coming from the. So the total income here is $9,608,126. Version 2 is higher because of the additional 4 students that we projected to receive in tuition income. $9,623,684. The income is down $172,639 from the prior year. It's a reduction negative 1.76%. The total operating budget, version 1, $31,169,143. Version 2, $30,492,323. That is 4.27% increase, version 2, or 6.58% with version 1. The next section is the debt. The debt, the construction debt service is $7,826,563. That includes the payment of the bonding that we did for the high school project, as well as prior costs for the projects that we did at the high school, the middle school, the high school windows and roofs, and then the middle school roof. So 7.6 million for the principal and interest for the high school project, and then another 225,000 for the prior year projects that we did. We will transfer from E&D $156. That is the additional monies that we received when we sold prior bonds. So the total debt is $7,825,707, an increase of $302,527. Last year, we were able to reduce the debt by the amount that we received over the sale of the bonds, but those funds have all been extended. Okay, so when we incorporate the operating budget and the debt, we're at 4.02%. The capital plan projects, $617,371. That has been increased 2.5%. So the total assessment, which incorporates the expenses, the income, the debt, as well as the capital, $38,935,401, which is a 4.19% increase from fiscal 25.
So I think, at least when we were on the subcommittee, we were talking, looking to get at 4%. And I think 4.19% is 4%. I'm wrong. So I think that everybody worked really hard on these finding monies, finding places without making cuts, without cutting the quality, and so that's it. Are there any questions, Tom?
Yeah, I just have one question. I caught something here. No, it would be to the positive. On the benefits of looking at regional pre-K.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the regional page where it breaks out the salaries and the benefits for the retirees to offset the initial cost. I'm looking at the benefits pre-K at $280,000, and I've seen that sheet of paper. I know what it is. I know that it is $280,000. But are we doing a 60-40 split on that, or is that going completely back to the elementary school budgets? 280,000.
That's going to the pre-K budget. And that,
Okay, so we're getting the entire 280,000.
those expenses get allocated out to the board meetings.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, no.
Well, it's good that you found additional dollars, but.
No, I thought maybe I did.
So that's not going into the central office budget. It's going,
Nice try.
so that's
Right.
100% off.
Okay.
But I like your thinking.
We're looking,
Yeah, Chris.
there's something that's always been complicated to me when looking at budgets. And this budget, is that, you look at our operating budgets and you look at actual costs last year, I'm not saying enough. Our costs went up 2.76%, or I'm sorry, when the what you call them, classification, 4.45%. But because our income gets changed, which is not something we have any control over really, it changes the bottom line on where our budgets are coming in, and that isn't, I mean, while it's part of the process, it's not really fair. We should be talking about how much the increase this year as far as our operating budgets rather than, you know, the income and whatever, because we don't have any control of it. And so it's a funky part of school budgets that, you know, we're not a business. We don't go out there and make money. Yet we do have income from various sources as a result of being in education. It's a funky aspect of school budget.
Last year, we benefited from interest income. I think that was one of the things that really.
Thank God for time.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? On the budgets, okay, so. Here's the deal on the budget, we had, we've still got some things to do. Before we close for the evening. But we have, had asked everybody to pencil in, a meeting for, next Thursday, in the event that there were still budget issues that were unresolved, that we needed to go over. Just think about it, before we adjourn for tonight, we'll want to decide if we think that we have to have that meeting or not. On March 13th, so 2 weeks from tonight, is the public hearing on the budget, and we will be taking a vote. And we will be taking a vote on this budget as presented tonight. So that's that. Any questions on that? All right. So now we're gonna move down to the next item of business, which is to establish the assessment methodology. And I was going to make better notes to explain this, but that's sidetracked. So for those that were on the committee last year, you may remember we voted to use the statutory assessment methodology. For those that are new, last year we voted to use the statutory assessment methodology. So just as a review, there are two options for regional school committees to use for their assessment as how they allocate the budget to the towns. There's the statutory method. Gets me out there because it's in law. So the statutory method, which is based in part on each town's required minimum contribution. It's all done by state formula. And it's the one that's involved. The alternative method, which is one that Nauset had been using for as long as, for a long time.
Last year.
Was just, it's based on enrollment. So whatever percentage of enrollment each of the towns have on October 1st, that is what was used. We changed it last year because as we were getting into the regional agreement, in our regional agreement, it says that we used the alternative method, but our lawyer pointed out, number one, that it shouldn't be in there. And number two, that there were potential issues with using the alternative method. So if we use the alternative method, every town, all 4 towns, every year have to vote to use the method. It's not how they vote on the budget. They just have to approve using the method. If any one of the towns does not approve the method, using the method, it's done, they have veto power. So, last year, we determined that we didn't want to take that chance. And we went to the statutory method. I believe it took some of the towns by surprise because I think we didn't give them enough forward notice that we were going to do this. We had always used the assessment method. They had always had it in there. They thought that was the way it was going to continue. So now, hopefully there'll be plenty of notice. So we have gone over this again. The Budget and Finance Subcommittee went over it again. We have a 4-page opinion from the lawyer. I think it's 4 pages. On the pros and cons of using these methods. We have the law. I also went to look at other regional districts. Out of 12 districts I looked at, I could find the budgets for 8. Every one of them uses the statutory method. It is, according to the state, the preferred method. That's why it's in the law. And so, and with this method, the towns do not have to vote on it. We vote on what method to use. This is our authority to do so. And then when they go to vote on the budgets, it's 2/3, or in our case, 3/4. So it's not, we use the alternative method, one town could actually veto the whole thing. And no, the other 3 towns don't want to be in that position. So we recommend that we continue to use the statutory method, and we have to vote on it every year to do so. So that's the background, that's the recommendation. Any questions?
Just one, Tom?
No, there's no question. I move that we move to accept the statutory method of assessment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, discussion.
It's just a quick one. So I mean, the net impact last year, well, the one distinction using the alternate method to the statutory method, the alternate method charged each of the towns the exact same dollar amount. What happens with the statutory method is that the state number is used as a basis to begin with, which is based on the economics of that tax. The distinction last year, the only one I looked was impacted, I believe, was Brewster, or not Brewster, it was Eastham, and they received a $60,000, their school charge was $60,000 more. But
Brewster was less.
British was less.
But,
Yeah, that's good math. So
Yeah.
it's 50 and 50, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were told, and we were actually chastised when we went before the Eastham select board, somehow saying that they had in their methodology of bringing the school budgets to a vote, had always made sure that regardless of that, it was a 2/3 vote. But the point is that it's not their job or responsibility. It's a school committee, it's an elected body, it's our responsibility. So the system that was being used prior to that, partially because it wasn't our regional agreement, but put the power in their hands, allowed them to have control, regardless of what said. So it's just, it wasn't right in the methodology. And so I guess the question comes down, do you want to give the authority to towns for one town to vote down on budgets? And I don't think that the work and the effort that goes into these, that makes logical sense. And it's, anyway, let's just note, that is what we have been doing, that's what we've been acting on all the years I've known this club. The towns run the assumption that was the way it always was, even if only 3 towns voted for it, the budget still passed. So I don't mean, we haven't created a change, it's just, we're actually doing the process correctly.
Well, the other thing that the lawyer pointed out and maybe I've said this, or I might be repeating myself, but the towns don't vote until their town meeting in May. So they could vote not to use, or they could not approve using the alternative method and we'd be stuck. And we'd be sitting here in July without a budget. So the timing of it isn't good. So this just, to me, is neater, it's cleaner. It's apparently what all the regional school districts use, and so,
There's no more discussion.
yeah.
Judy, just one more thing, and thank you for a great explanation of the process and what we're voting on. But one thing did stand out is that you talked about the fact that some of the towns, I think, felt blindsided. So could part of this, or maybe something we could discuss afterwards, is the communication? Can we send a letter right away to the 4 towns indicating the nature of this vote after tonight's meeting?
Yeah, right. They have representatives at our subcommittee meeting.
I don't know if Wellfleet's there. I don't know, just a thought. I just think that considering what happened last year, maybe it would be a good idea. But we can discuss after.
Okay, so
Yeah, I just wanna add one thing onto what Chris was saying from my perspective of last year. I think it was one of those situations of it was done this way. Nobody knew differently. We found out differently. It didn't get communicated till last minute, so I don't think the towns were doing anything underhanded. It's what they. I'm not saying you were saying that, I just wanted to make it clear. They were doing what they knew, we were doing what we knew, we found out something new and we opened Pandora's box, as I like to call it, with the regional agreement, and then shifted accordingly, so.
okay, any other discussion? Okay, so we have motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, Carrie, how do you
Yes.
vote?
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Judy votes yes.
Yes.
Maura, Josh?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
All right, done, unanimous. So get out statutory method table to your okay.
Work county.
We're almost here, we're almost done. One more thing, the establishment of a SPED stabilization fund.
Sure, thanks, and I'm just gonna tee this up and then happy to respond to any questions. So when we first came into the district and when I first came into the district and was taking a look, I could very quickly see that whenever we had a shift, especially at the elementary schools with district placements or costs that we were not anticipating that came in, particularly for the elementary schools with the smaller budgets, a $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 child coming through the door could really throw those budgets out of whack quickly. And if you had 2 of those types of students who came in the door, then we were in trouble. And so Brewster was the first one, and that year, if memory serves me right, I think that was the first year of the Student Opportunity Act, I think, if memory serves me right, Gio. And so I think Brewster got a fair chunk of the coin at that point in time. And so they established the first of the special education stabilization funds within Nauset. And that very year, I remember, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Gio, I think they put 100,000 in, and I think we had to go back after for 73,000. That same year, so they barely got the money in the bank, and we had to go back and say, you need it. And but then with kind of the promise to say, we'll continue to work at building this, right? And so pretty much what's happened across NPS is that as districts found themselves at a point where they might have had a little extra money at the end of the year, a little bit of residual that wasn't spent. Right away, they said, can we earmark this and put this towards a special education fund, stabilization fund? So Orleans was I believe the next community that did it, and but in the meantime, we were having conversations with Wellfleet and with East End saying, listen, we would really like to see you folks take this on as well. So Orleans, again, memory serves me right, I wanna say the first year maybe it was around the 40,000 mark or 50, and then the second year was around the 50,000 mark, somewhere around there. So every year we've kind of continued to work out Orleans to start to build it up. It is on the warrant, I believe, for this upcoming town meeting, I believe in Wellfleet. Tom Moreno certainly is more than well aware because he's established these before himself in previous positions. So when we approached him with it, was right away, yeah, we absolutely need to do this. So then that leaves us with Eastham, and so we've had some conversations with Eastham. Not surprising, you know, Jackie was very supportive of it, the town manager. But we just hadn't had the money to put into Eastham because they ran a deficit last year, et cetera. So we haven't really been in a position, but we want to establish it, even if we put like $20 in it to say it's here, it's ready to go, so that when, because it is a whole process, right? So, and because it has to be before the town meetings and you have to put it in and then you have to go back to, if you're gonna end up taking it out, it's all, but it's not complicated, it's just a process, that's all. And so then that kind of leaves us, and you can look and almost take the same type of thinking, okay, so for the smaller schools, if you have 1 or 2 kids, it can really run things a month. In the region, you've got more children in here, and the chances for more children to come in unexpectedly, like we've had, I wanna say, I think 2 residential students that have come in this year. And that's a perfect example, because when you're looking at residential students, you're looking at $300,000 to $500,000 placements, right? And so you have to always kind of keep that in mind. So I remember we were having a TATM meeting, I think it was maybe a year, 2 years ago, I think. And I remember one of the TAs saying to Peter Lombardi, was 100,000 enough? And he said right away, no, I would have put more in there, you know, so, and so the notion is that, okay, so what is that magic number? And so I think that across the board, we're kind of all saying, listen, if we can kind of keep around the 300,000 mark, because that's kind of like the base for a residential, is that kind of the sweet spot. So here we are tonight, and we say, okay, all of our elementary schools have been doing this, and we would strongly encourage the notion that the region as well consider the idea of establishing a SPED stabilization fund. It just really does help in case you get one of those glitchy years. So it's just kind of like a savings account that's sitting there. So that's my tee up. So I don't know, happy to answer any questions, or Gio.
So what we're working on here is a request that each of the towns okay us setting a fund like this up,
Correct, I think that's how it would go. We would have to run it past legal counsel, but I think that's exactly what would have to happen.
Yeah, we've got.
Okay, there's nothing
I
we
think
can
we've
do on
got,
our own, you got it.
you got the motions from the, and the warrant language from the lawyer. It has to go to all 4 towns, to the town meeting. And they have to approve establishing it, and then we can put money in it. So that's the. Any other questions, Carrie?
Yeah. So I was involved at the time in Brewster when this went into effect. So I was an advocate of this. And I think it's a great idea to bring it to the region. The other part of it, though, is the wording in the warrant. And I'm not sure, you know, I think establishing the fund is probably the first, but as we put it in the warrant, making sure that it's for unanticipated costs, as Brooke was talking about, so that it's not something that we can dip into if we go over budget because, or whatever, but it's because of these unanticipated, unbudgeted costs. And I think that there's a way to put that wording in the warrant as well.
Well, that's certainly what Brewster did. It doesn't have to be like that, but certainly that's what Brewster did, you're right.
That's not what we have from the lawyer, but we can go back and ask her.
Yeah, and if you want, I can pull up that language for you.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Yeah, more.
And then we would add money to it as we have money to add to it.
Correct.
So each year we would have a discussion.
We're gonna have to.
With our extra money,
All the extra money.
Well, you never know, for example, because sometimes it could be chapter 70, it could be, I mean, a year like with ESSER, I mean, when we got the ESSER monies in. Or the Student Opportunity Act, like in Brewster, you know, that was something that we just didn't see coming and all of a sudden it was there. It was
Unknown money.
Yeah, new money that you just weren't planning on, and you never know in a given year, and having sat at the DESE, I knew how often the monies would come from the feds, because it had to be spent. And then you had a window of maybe 2 or 3 months to get that money spent, and so you're pushing stuff up quickly to the school districts to try to get it spent. You just never know, and so I think the notion of having the account set up so that you've got some place to direct it, I think is your first step.
Okay.
So is there a minimum amount that we have to put in to establish?
No,
it?
no,
So we
no, we just want to establish it right now.
And,
We just set up the account right now.
okay.
So we need a.
That's
motion on
what,
this?
that's, you
I
got.
think we've got the written
All right.
motions on the lawyer.
So we're ready here.
So you want me to first see what the warrant article would say? That's not the motion, that's just.
No, this is the.
We don't just talk about the warrant. Okay, so then I make a motion that to establish a special education stabilization fund for the district according to the Acts of 2016, chapter 218, section 24, and Mass General Law C40, section 13E.
Is there a second? Second, then we have a second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All right, take a vote. This time we're gonna go the opposite direction. I know, Florida. Catherine, how do you vote? Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Maura?
Yes.
Judy votes yes.
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
Okay, don't go away. We have another motion.
So
I
I make a motion to authorize the superintendent to contact the select boards of the member towns of the district to request that the proposed warrant article to establish special education stabilization fund for the district in the form submitted for review at this meeting or a form substantially similar thereto be included in the annual town meeting warrants for each of the member towns. Should I read the warrant article as it's stated currently? So the warrant article that's referring to is to see if the town will vote to approve the establishment of a special education stabilization fund according to the Acts of 2016, chapter 218, section 24, and MGL C.40, section 13E for the Nauset Regional School District.
Okay, so there's a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all right, this time we'll go with Chris.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Judy, yes. Maura? Josh?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
All right, John, and I just want to acknowledge for those of you who've been around for a long time, this Jim O'Leary, who was a
Yeah.
representative from Brewster for many years, he was on when, and was the head of the Budget and Finance Subcommittee when I first got on. He tried to get us to do this for years, and we were so obsessed by OPEB. This always got pushed on the back burner.
Well, OPEB says 5 years to set up, so that's a long time.
So this too may have taken us that, but in Jim's memory, this is,
Yes.
this
So he's
is,
smiling up there, looking down.
that's right. Very nice, yeah. Okay, so we've done that. We've got one last thing to do, well, maybe, declare surplus. We actually have surplus in here.
Yeah. So move.
You can see that the lacrosse helmets are worthless, that's why they're going in for new ones. There, not Josh. At the March 27th.
I have one question, surplus. Maybe the surplus stuff that has value is gonna be auctioned or sold, or you're seeing $4,000 or $5,000 on 2 items? Jewelry shop stuff?
We'll have to put a bid out for surplus items. We have the items here in middle school too, from the wood shop. Do that all.
Gotcha, good. I was just wondering how to handle, what happened to the cash? Great, we got one. Great.
Can we put this in the stabilization fund?
Eventually.
I mean, come on. You know, it's a start, it's more than $20. All right,
I think Chris made a motion.
did you make a motion? Yeah, second, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, again, okay, we could do random. Oh, any other discussion? No, okay. All right, Tom, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Maura?
Yes.
I vote yes, Heather,
Yes.
and, Carrie.
Yes.
All right, done. All right, that's our priority business, and it's only 22.
I just, it'll only take 2 minutes.
No, we've got reports and information, you can, this is your time.
I was remiss, in not thanking the, Budget and Finance Subcommittee for all of their time and effort that they put into, the budget, and that the committee was composed of Maura, Judy, Rick Draper, and, Chris Easley and myself. I really appreciate it because I know that for a while, we were meeting every week, and I think one time we met twice in 1 week, and
And
everybody was there, and I also appreciate some of our other committee members that weren't on the budget finance subcommittee also were significant participants, Carrie and Heather. So thank you all. You know, it took many hands to lighten the load on this whole thing, and everybody's input was invaluable.
Been a great movement, great
You've
movement
been-
in the budget process, it's unbelievable.
we're gonna talk about how you gave us homework.
Oh.
No, let's talk about how she gave us work.
Well, sleepover meeting, come on, I was almost voted off the island.
I'm more than one of those.
You know, we both. And I have one more issue.
Yes,
issue,
yes.
Does the committee, feel that we need the meeting next week for more, for further input or insight into the budget? Before we vote on the 13th?
Right,
Carrie, she, no.
I don't.
The only thing like that puts it, I mean, it's out of, like, we would have to address the capital plan first at that meeting, which I mean, it's been reviewed by the subcommittee, we've gone through it, and Bob Capacis, I don't like to screw it, was the one who came up with it, so it's been, you know, it's been well vetted. So I don't think it's a controversial thing, there is no air conditioning for the auditorium, but I'm aware.
All right, you know,
I think, yeah, I mean, it's a big bump.
we got one more year to get that in. Okay, does anybody feel the need for, raise your hand if you feel a need for another meeting?
The only variable is if there's some surprise with E&D being certified, if there's some crazy thing that'll happen in the next couple of days. But I don't anticipate that, right, Giovanna?
Busy right now, Giovanna has been in touch, we're in regular touch with them, so I don't think that we're expecting anything different right now.
No
Carrie.
surprise. Great, perfect. Then no, I don't think we need any.
Yes, yes. So, okay, so we will cancel next, the March 16th. So our meeting after that is 13th. Okay. Are there any other subcommittees or anybody else that would like to report?
Regional Agreement Subcommittee has Scott Gus. We are waiting on Wolfley. Wolfley has a lawyer who I met with and was gonna meet with the other night. Wolfley is, we haven't received a letter yet, but a letter is coming from them requesting to March, I believe she didn't give a specific date, but that they want to do March for their review of the process. I mean, they find just, there's nothing, four towns have right, for some reason, the 3 towns worked together with one lawyer and Wolfley was out of it, and it took a while for Wolfley to come on, so that's the logic and reason. And so.
Did we get a response from the 3 towns?
Have not, I'm locked out of my, I'm working, getting back into that, because of the 2-step verification, I can't get in it. Now I can't, I can only get in on my regular email on my phone, not on my machine.
Oh.
Grab your Taylor, you got it. Where's the communications?
So you set it up on your phone with two-step verification, and then when you go in on your computer.
Oh, I had two steps set up and changed the password and once I went in the password, it told me I didn't have two-step verification, so I couldn't go beyond.
Oh, well, that happened to me too, and so I.
Yeah, I'm sure I can get it, it's just.
So it's 3 or 4 steps.
Yeah. But I can't do them, so they're not mine.
But they were gonna get us by the end of December, now it's the end of February, so.
Just on that question, you talked about getting them, Chromebooks at any point in time, is that not? We, I mean, I've been in meetings with Dave, there is more paper that is going around, I mean, I feel bad for those that are printing it, I feel bad for those that are, there's a lot of work that's going in.
We had talked about that, Chris, you're absolutely right.
Right, yeah.
That comes from our radar, but I see,
I'm not gonna be this for this,
yeah, I see Arlen Frank is seriously writing back there. So,
Short money for a lot of it.
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Also, I'm jealous, I look at the superintendent search and somebody came in, they're like, that's a nice little,
You can take the rejects.
tab.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
the communication subcommittee update?
yeah,
All right, so we met this morning actually and had a very interesting meeting with a company that could potentially, but we're not quite sure, at least reviewed a proposal that they had to do an assessment and an audit of our communication and help us put together a communication plan. It was good food for thought. We are going to be meeting again next month to put together some thoughts from the committee, and but it's a process that's moving along, and I don't know if Brooke, you have anything else to add?
I think that's exactly what I'd say too. I think, we're ever evolving, I think, and I thought it was a great meeting this morning. So I think we've got some things in place right now. I think that the bid came in a little higher than I was hoping for. And so it kind of put us into it, and we had to kind of step back for a minute and said, okay, now we have to move forward a little differently. And so that's kind of where we've landed, but I thought it was a great meeting this morning.
How much was the bid, I'm sorry?
Well, they offered, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, but they basically presented 3 options for us, and the lowest was 12,500, I believe, the highest was 20,000. And that was a little bit more than we were hoping for, so, and because it's over that 10,000 mark, now we have to go back and, yeah, exactly, so. And I know that there's another company out there, because all of a sudden, I got, something appeared on my desk the other day from a company I've never heard of. With regards to PR, so I think that people know that we're out there looking for this kind of thing, and all of a sudden, I've got information. Yeah, yes, exactly, so, but no, great job, Carrie, this morning with that meeting, great job.
Thank you. We've got a lot of work to do.
okay,
Just a comment. Yeah. After that, I was just thinking, maybe at this point, we should wait for the new superintendent for his input. He might have worked with a PR firm or have some thoughts on them.
Carrie, can I just speak to that and then
Yeah.
you jump in? I think the whole point here was, I think what we were really trying to do is get a plan organized for the new superintendent. So this was kind of like an audit type thing to say, okay, these are the things that Nauset has in place, these are some suggestions, this is, and then you can take it from there. I don't think this is a PR firm that we were looking at forever and a day type thing. This is a process that we're looking for to help lay the pathway, and then the new superintendent can decide either to take that pathway or not. So I think, Carrie, would that be a correct characterization?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's just basically laying out a picture of how our communication works right now.
Right.
How does it work smoothly? Where are the pitfalls? Where is the communication not getting? So I think it's just giving some good data and collecting some good data and information, and then putting together some suggestions of what we could do to make it better. So I don't think there's anything, and maybe that could be, and I imagine a new superintendent coming in is going to have a lot on their plate. So the more data I think that we could present to that person, the better.
And I don't think any decision is gonna be made through this. It's just
No.
a-
Yeah. It's just an audit, really.
Are you telling us that from the desk or Arlen doesn't work anymore?
It works beautifully.
The trouble is just getting over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because this came up, normally I don't report out because on committees, but I would want you to know that Glenn, Brand and I started our transition this morning.
Good.
And so we've got regular meetings set up Wednesday mornings and we are establishing I think a really good methodology here for all components of the superintendent position within Nauset. We've got a Google Doc going that with hyperlinks, et cetera, so that he can see everything. He can add to it, I can add to it, and Arlen can add to it. So I think we're in a really good space. We had great communication this morning. He is so excited. And I'm so excited for him and I'm so excited for Nauset. So yeah,
So he'll be involved in the assistant superintendent.
He will. yeah,
I
yeah.
just want to.
But that was one of our.
Leadership of being under somebody when they're coming in.
Well, I said to him, like, I mean, it doesn't matter about my connection with that person, it's gonna matter about his connection with that person. And so we can bring him the top finalists and then, I said, I'm happy to sit in the interviews with you or not. It's completely up to him, so I would totally agree with that. Yeah.
There's so many movies, I mean, it's just so good. It's great.
We've got this.
Great. I know. I just wanted to hear about that.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? Okay, no meeting on the 6th. Back here on the 13th.
Or on vacation? Vacation.
We have a joint,
Tom.
we have a joint school committee meeting on the 5th. Remotely. Okay. All right,
On the 5th.
Virtually.
we have to.
For the joint. I have on the 4th and the 5th. So we're
Just
Yeah.
just one day. It may have been.
Well, I'm just.
All right, if there's nothing else, I need one more motion.
I move that we adjourn.
All right, everybody, have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.